Hello everyone, Andrew here and welcome back to 3 Laps 3 Topics. Today we're going to look at the British Grand Prix held once again at Silverstone for the 50th Grand Prix in fact that the Silverstone circuit in Northamptonshire has held over the years. So a big capacity crowd expected at Silverstone again this weekend, rooting for a Lewis Hamilton win most of all, and probably hoping that Jenson Button goes well as well, especially as he's honouring the passing of his father this weekend in a really great campaign that they're running for him and that McLaren are doing this weekend. So if you haven't heard much about that already, I do recommend that you go check it out, go give it some of your time. So to crack on with the first lap, I thought I'd go through the practice sessions from this morning. I viewed quite a bit of FP1, wasn't able to watch FP2, but once again it looks like the Mercedes drivers are going to be pretty hard to beat round Silverstone this weekend. Lewis Hamilton having the edge in FP2, although he did have a mechanical problem, something to do with the power unit. I do wonder though whether that was an old power unit that was maybe had a few miles on the clock. I know the teams have tended to do that for a good couple of years, that they'll do the base setup work on the car using an engine that's already pretty near its expiry date and isn't going to be used for any more actual racing on a Sunday. But I don't think it'll hold Mercedes back too much, that they've had a few technical problems today. Rosberg had a few energy recovery system problems in FP1 today and looked quick in FP1 as well, although it's probably could be argued that Hamilton could have matched Rosberg's time, but he was stopped by putting in his flying lap in, because I think there was a yellow flag for Marcus Ericsson managing once again to spin off on a piece of track which I've never seen anyone end up in before. Unfortunately at Williams it wasn't the best practice for them. Susie Wolff went out very early on and looked to have some good pace, got the first flying lap in, but after that there was not much more as the car ground to a halt, not quite sure why. And then Felipe Massa had an enormous crash, well medium sized crash at least, coming up to the Vale chicane, lost it on the curb and ended up in the wall and blocking the pit lane. So a lot of work to do for Williams if they're to repeat their podium finishes from Austria. Brings me on quite nicely to the weather, because I think the time that Williams have lost, the weather could actually play into their hands. So obviously we had dry running today, but the weather forecast is ever changing, and predictably there's some wet stuff thrown in there as well, with it being Silverstone. If you've ever spent more than 2 days in a row at Silverstone, you'll probably at some point have come across the very changeable conditions that you can get around the old airfield. I think because it's an old airfield, it's kind of has its own microclimate, very windy. Cars were struggling with crosswinds again today, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's a wet race on Sunday. We haven't had a wet race so far I think this season, correct me if I'm wrong, so could that throw a few opportunities for people open, whether that be Williams recovering from the bad practice sessions that they've had today? Could it mix up the championship battle? Could Hamilton or Rosberg potentially fall off the road in the wet weather? Who knows? I think it's going to be a really exciting race, whatever happens. And so as we come on to the last lap, let's talk about my prediction for the weekend. So I'm going to go for a Lewis Hamilton win. I think the home crowd will really spur him on this weekend, even though he gets asked 1,000,001 times what does it mean for him to win his home race. Of course he's going to be pumped up for it, and yeah, I think we could see a repeat of 2008, especially if it's a wet race. Rosberg, yeah, you'd probably put him second, but as I say, you never know, there could be a technical problem on the car. Those technical problems seem to be creeping in a bit more on the Mercedes, not quite sure why. And Rosberg is okay in the wet, but under the pressure, these new turbo cars, very twitchy, as Felipe Massa found out earlier today. Who knows, this could be the difficult weekend for him. My prediction for best of the rest, I think it's going to be between Red Bull and Ferrari. Red Bull especially looked pretty good today in practice. Daniel Ricciardo, I think, got third in one of the practice sessions. The Red Bull will definitely suit the Silverstone circuit. Very high speed, lots of high speed turns where you need that aerodynamic grip and that performance from the Adrian Newey design. So I think they could be good for a podium this weekend. Of the other Mercedes powered teams, which I haven't mentioned so far, I think they can definitely both do well this weekend. Force India, home track for them. They literally have to just hop across the road to get to the circuit. They've typically gone well round Silverstone, and McLaren as well will be hopeful of a good result this weekend at their home race, especially once again if it's wet. You've got to think that Jenson Button will have a chance to get himself further up the order than he does normally this season. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, then give it a like on that like button below. Share it as well on Facebook and Twitter and the like. And as I said before, comment below who you think will win the race this weekend. What's your podium prediction for Silverstone? If you want to subscribe, that would be really well appreciated. My review of the race will hopefully be coming Monday. It might be slightly delayed as I'm not actually going to be able to watch the race live this weekend, as I'm volunteering at the Tour de France stages, so I'll be out on stage 2 all day in Sheffield, and hopefully I'll get to watch the race when I get back in the evening. On the screen are links to 2 videos that you may have missed. On the left is my review of the Austrian Grand Prix, the last Formula 1 race, and on the right is a bit of review of current F1 news, Caterham sale, bit of Formula E news in there as well. So I hope you have a good day. I've been Andrew the Blade, and I'll catch you very soon.